They called him invincible, the greatest golfer who ever lived, a man who seemed to have it all, fame, fortune, and a gift that transcended sport itself. But behind the perfect swing and million-dollar smile, Tiger Woods was fighting battles that would eventually bring him to his knees. This is the story of how the king of golf lost everything and found his way back to the light. Welcome back to Light After Dark, where we explore the incredible journeys of those who faced their darkest moments and emerged stronger. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most dramatic falls and inspiring comebacks in sports history. Eldrick Tiger Woods wasn't just born to play golf. He was engineered for greatness. His father, Earl Woods, a former Green Beret and Vietnam veteran, had a vision. He would create the greatest golfer the world had ever seen. From the moment Tiger could walk, he had a golf club in his hands. At 2 years old, he was already showing the world his prodigious talent on television. By age 3, he was shooting in the 40s for 9 holes. This wasn't just natural talent. This was obsession, discipline, and an almost supernatural focus instilled by a father who saw golf as more than a game. But here's where the story gets complicated. Earl Woods didn't just want his son to be a great golfer. He wanted him to be a symbol, a barrier breaker, someone who would change the world. The pressure was immense, even for a child prodigy. Tiger dominated junior golf like no one before him. He won the U.S. Amateur Championship 3 consecutive times. Unprecedented. When he turned professional in '96 at age 20, the golf world held its breath. And then came April 13th, 1997, the Masters tournament at Augusta National. Tiger didn't just win, he obliterated the field by 12 strokes, becoming the youngest Masters champion in history at 21. But more than that, he became a symbol of hope and possibility for millions around the world. That victory represented so much more than golf. Here was a young Black and Asian man dominating a sport that had been predominantly white and exclusive. He wasn't just breaking records, he was breaking barriers. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. Tiger transformed golf from a gentleman's hobby into appointment television. Ratings soared when he played. Prize money increased across the tour. He wasn't just an athlete, he was a brand, a phenomenon. But with greatness came isolation. Tiger had been groomed from childhood to be perfect, to be controlled, to never show weakness. He lived in a bubble, surrounded by handlers, agents, and yes men. The very machine that created his success began to suffocate him. In 2004, Tiger married Swedish model Ellen Nordegren. To the outside world, they were the perfect couple. Beautiful, successful, seemingly happy. They had 2 children together, Sam and Charlie. Tiger's image was pristine, the devoted family man, the role model, the athlete who transcended his sport. But the pressure was building. Tiger's pursuit of Jack Nicklaus's record of 18 major championships became an obsession. Every tournament mattered. Every shot was scrutinized. He was expected to win, always. And when he didn't, the media dissected every aspect of his game and his life. What the world didn't see was how Tiger was coping with this pressure. Behind closed doors, away from the cameras and the crowds, he was living a double life that would eventually destroy everything he had built. The 2008 U.S. Open at Torrey Pines should have been Tiger's greatest triumph. Playing on a broken leg with torn knee ligaments, he battled through pain to force a playoff, then won his 14th major championship in dramatic fashion. It was courage personified. But that victory came at a cost. The knee surgery that followed would keep Tiger out of golf for 8 months. For a man whose identity was completely wrapped up in being the best golfer in the world, this forced break was devastating. During his recovery, the cracks in Tiger's carefully constructed image began to show. He became increasingly distant from his family. The pressure of maintaining his perfect public persona while dealing with physical pain and uncertainty about his future created a perfect storm. This is where Tiger's story becomes a cautionary tale about fame, pressure, and the human cost of perfectionism. When you're told from childhood that you're superhuman, what happens when you're reminded that you're not? November 27, 2009, Thanksgiving night. At 2:25 a.m., Tiger Woods crashed his Cadillac Escalade into a fire hydrant in a tree near his Florida home. What seemed like a minor accident would become the moment that changed everything. Within hours, the carefully constructed image that had been built over decades began to crumble. Details emerged that painted a picture of a man living two completely different lives. I want to pause here because what happened next is important to understand. This wasn't just about infidelity or personal mistakes. This was about a man who had been so disconnected from his authentic self for so long that he didn't know who he was anymore. The revelations came fast and brutal. Multiple affairs, a pattern of behavior that contradicted everything Tiger represented publicly. Major sponsors fled. His marriage imploded. The man who had been untouchable was suddenly toxic. But it was Tiger's response that showed just how deep his problems went. His initial statements were cold, calculated, corporate. There was no authenticity, no real accountability, just damage control. This is where Tiger's real journey begins, not with his first golf lesson or his first major championship, but with this moment of complete destruction. Because sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who you really are. In December 2009, Tiger entered therapy for sex addiction in Mississippi. For a man who had controlled every aspect of his public image, this admission was perhaps the most vulnerable moment of his life. Now, I want to be clear about something. Whether you believe in sex addiction as a clinical diagnosis or not, what's important is that Tiger recognized he needed help. He was finally admitting that the person he'd been wasn't working. For the first time since he was a toddler, Tiger wasn't playing golf. The man who had defined himself entirely through his athletic achievements was forced to confront who he was without a golf club in his hands. The divorce from Elin was finalized in August 2010. Tiger reportedly paid over $100 million in the settlement. More painfully, he had limited access to his children, the two people who meant more to him than any trophy or endorsement deal. This period, roughly 2010 to 2011, represents Tiger's rock bottom. His world ranking fell from number 1 to outside the top 50. He couldn't win tournaments. His putting, once automatic, betrayed him. But more than his golf game was broken, Tiger himself was broken. Golf had always been Tiger's escape, his safe space, the one place where he felt in control. Now even that was taken from him. He was experiencing what psychologists call an identity crisis, when the core of who you think you are is challenged or destroyed. Redemption stories in movies happen quickly. A montage of training, a few setbacks, then triumph. Real life is messier. Tiger's comeback would take years and require him to rebuild not just his golf game, but his entire relationship with himself and the world. Tiger began working with Sean Foley as his new swing coach, completely overhauling the mechanics that had made him the best golfer in the world. It was a risky move, like a great artist deciding to paint with their non-dominant hand. But the physical challenges were just beginning. Starting in 2014, Tiger's back began to fail him. He underwent multiple surgeries, 4 back operations between 2014 and 2017. There were times when he couldn't even get out of bed, let alone swing a golf club. Think about this for a moment. Tiger had already lost his family, his reputation, and his dominance in golf. Now he was losing his physical ability to even play the game. For many people, this would be the end of the story. May 29, 2010, Tiger was arrested for DUI in Florida. The mugshot showed a man who looked nothing like the Tiger Woods the world knew. Disheveled, confused, clearly struggling. He wasn't drunk, he was impaired by prescription pain medication. That arrest could have been the final chapter in Tiger's downfall. Instead, it became another wake-up call. Tiger entered a diversion program, got the help he needed for his medication issues, and began the real work of recovery. Here's what I find most fascinating about Tiger's story. The comeback wasn't just about fixing his swing or managing his pain. The real work was internal, learning to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to connect with people as a human being rather than as a brand. We began to see glimpses of a different Tiger Woods. He was more open with the media, more willing to show emotion, more present as a father. His children, Sam and Charlie, became regular fixtures at his tournaments, and you could see the joy in his eyes when he looked at them. He found love again with Erica Herman, a restaurant manager who knew him as a person, not as Tiger Woods the brand. For the first time in years, Tiger seemed genuinely happy off the golf course. But perhaps most importantly, Tiger began to see therapy not as a weakness, but as maintenance, like working out or practicing golf. He was learning to be comfortable with being imperfect, with being human. 2018 was the year everything began to change. Tiger's back was finally healthy enough for him to play consistently. But more than that, something was different about his demeanor. He seemed calmer, more present, more grateful just to be able to compete. September 23rd, 2018, the Tour Championship at East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta. Tiger won his first tournament in 5 years. The celebration was raw, emotional, and real in a way we'd never seen from Tiger before. He hugged everyone, his caddy, his girlfriend, even competitors who had become friends during his journey back. That victory meant more than any of his previous 79 PGA Tour wins because it represented something different. It wasn't about dominance or perfection. It was about resilience, about the human capacity to overcome, to find light after the deepest darkness. What was remarkable was the reaction from other players. These were competitors who had no reason to root for Tiger, yet they were genuinely happy for him. He had earned something more valuable than fear or respect. He had earned love. April 14, 2019, the Masters Tournament at Augusta National. Tiger was in contention entering the final round, but few expected him to actually win. It had been 11 years since his last major championship, 1 year since his last Masters victory. But something magical happened that Sunday at Augusta. Tiger played with a calm confidence we hadn't seen in years. When Francesco Molinari, who had been leading, began to stumble, Tiger seized the moment. The putt that sealed victory was only a few feet, but it represented so much more. When that ball dropped into the cup, Tiger's reaction was pure joy. Not the calculated fist pump of his youth, but the unguarded emotion of a man who had been to hell, and back. The image that defined that victory wasn't Tiger holding the trophy, it was him hugging his children behind the 18th green, both of them seeing their father as a champion for the first time in their lives. Sam was 11, Charlie was 10. This was their first real memory of Dad as the golfer the world knew him to be. That Masters victory was voted the greatest comeback in sports history by many publications. But what made it truly special wasn't the golf. It was the transformation of the man who played it. The Tiger Woods who won the 2019 Masters was fundamentally different from the one who had dominated golf in the 2000s. He was more human, more relatable, more genuine, and paradoxically, that authenticity made him more powerful, not less. We saw this new Tiger in his role as captain of the 2019 President's Cup team. Instead of the distant, intimidating figure of his prime, Tiger was supportive, encouraging, genuinely invested in helping his teammates succeed. But perhaps the most meaningful transformation was as a father. Tiger had always said his children were his priority, but now we could see it. He was present, engaged, and clearly determined not to repeat the mistakes of his own childhood. This brings us to one of the most important lessons of Tiger's story. True strength isn't about being invulnerable. It's about being vulnerable and continuing to fight anyway. Tiger's greatest victory wasn't any of his major championships. It was admitting he needed help and doing the work to become a better human being. Tiger's comeback had impacts far beyond his personal life. Golf had missed its biggest star, and his return brought renewed interest in the sport. But more importantly, his story of redemption inspired millions of people dealing with their own struggles. The Tiger Woods story teaches us several crucial lessons about resilience and redemption. First, that perfectionism can be toxic. Tiger's early training to be perfect, to never show weakness, ultimately became his prison. True strength comes from acknowledging our imperfections and working with them, not against them. Second, that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Tiger's willingness to enter therapy, to admit his problems, to work on himself, this was more courageous than any golf shot he ever hit. Third, that authenticity is more powerful than any manufactured image. The Tiger who came back was more human, more fallible, and somehow more inspiring because of it. And finally, that it's never too late to change. Tiger was 43 when he won the Masters in 2019. He had been struggling for nearly a decade, yet he found a way to not just return to greatness, but to find a better version of greatness. One rooted in humility, authenticity, and genuine connection with others. Tiger's story took another dramatic turn in February 2021 when he was seriously injured in a car accident in Los Angeles. Multiple fractures in his right leg required extensive surgery and raised questions about whether he would ever walk normally again, let alone play professional golf. But here's the thing about Tiger Woods. He had already proven that his greatest victories weren't measured in golf tournaments. They were measured in his ability to overcome, to rebuild, to find meaning and purpose even in the darkest moments. His return to Augusta National in April 2022, walking 18 holes despite obvious pain and physical limitations, wasn't about winning. It was about showing up. It was about refusing to let circumstances define his limits. That's the Tiger Woods who inspires me most. Not the one who dominated golf for a decade, but the one who kept fighting when everything seemed lost. The one who proved that our greatest victories often come not from our successes, but from how we handle our failures. Tiger Woods' journey from the depths of personal and professional destruction to redemption is more than a sports story. It's a deeply human story about the price of perfectionism, the power of authenticity, and the possibility of second chances. His story reminds us that no one is immune to struggle, to failure, to losing their way. But it also shows us that with courage, honesty, and the willingness to do the hard work of personal growth, we can find our way back to the light. Tiger's greatest legacy won't be his 15 major championships or his 82 PGA Tour victories. It will be showing millions of people that you can lose everything: your reputation, your family, your health, your identity, and still find a way to rebuild. Still find a way to become not just who you were before, but someone better. The Tiger Woods who emerged from his darkest period was more human, more relatable, and ultimately more inspiring than the seemingly invincible champion we thought we knew. He showed us that true strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up again and again, no matter how many times life knocks you down. That's what Light After Dark is all about. Finding hope in the darkest moments, discovering that our greatest struggles can become our greatest strengths, and remembering that redemption is always possible for those brave enough to seek it. Tiger Woods didn't just come back to golf, he came back to life. And in doing so, he lit a path for anyone who has ever felt lost, broken, or beyond hope. Because sometimes the light after dark isn't just about returning to where you were. Sometimes it's about discovering who you were always meant to be.
Thank you for joining us today. If this story inspired you, remember to like and share it with someone who needs to hear that their darkness doesn't define them. Their light does. Don't forget to subscribe for our upcoming stories of triumph over adversity.